Okay, everyone, welcome. Thank you for joining us again today. Today I have José Pereira. He is a leadership and resilience coach and he's got quite the story to tell. José, welcome. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. First of all, where in the world are you currently?
I'm in Houston, Texas. We're the oil and gas city of the world.
I did not know that. There we go. Perfect. And of course, your story starts with you being working in oil and gas, right?
Yes. My story begins there because I did my career in oil and gas. I'm Venezuelan born. I began my career in Venezuela in the oil and gas industry that is PDVSA, Petróleos de Venezuela, or Petroleums of Venezuela. So PDVSA, when I began my career in the 80s, was the fifth oil and gas company of the world. So it was a big
Wow.
company.
Yeah. And so you're obviously now a resilience and leadership coach. What happened between joining the oil and gas company and where you are now? Let's go back to that.
That's a great question because you never know the twist that your life gives. So I came here to the U.S. assigned as a PDVSA officer working to the U.S. base here in Houston that is Citgo Petroleum. Citgo Petroleum here in the U.S. is very well known because it's the sixth refinery all over the U.S. Has like 6,000 gas stations all over the U.S. So it's very well
Gosh.
known. And I was appointed here as the finance VP. And after several years, I became the CEO of the company. So I was in 2017 being the CEO of the company. So I was kind of in the pinnacle of my career. And but always, as I said, the life gives you turns. So that year, 2017, if anybody can Google it, Venezuela has become a very terrible country with having a communist regime. And the president that was in office here, that was Donald Trump, began to have a lot of friction with that government. And he began to impose sanctions, very similar to the one that today Russia has for the Ukrainian war. So
Sure.
they imposed sanctions to the country, to the people, and finally they did an oil embargo. So when all these things begin to happen, I was here being the CEO of the US-based company, but we had a strong relation with our parent company of Venezuela because we bought the crude from Venezuela and we refined here in the US. So I began to have a lot of ethical conflicts, and I told my wife that I was going to get retired. So by that time, I was having 35 years in the company, and I decided to get retired. So I flew to Venezuela. I spoke with my boss and told him that I wanted my retirement. Back and forward, he didn't accept that. After some time, he said, okay, let me find a replacement and give me 4 months. So now we were in October 2017, and I was planning to get retired in January, February 2018. That never happened. That never happened because 1 month after I got approved the retirement, I was here with my wife in a movie in November, waiting to the Thanksgiving, waiting my kids to come. I was in Thanksgiving mode. I was in retiring mode, preparing
Absolutely.
myself to my new life. I was planning to become a consultant, so everything was okay for me.
Yeah.
Well, I received a last minute call, unexpectedly, a call that asking me to go to Caracas to make a presentation, November 21. And I flew to Caracas. I flew to Caracas the day after. I flew with my top 5 executives because we were asked to make a presentation of a refinery that we were revamping in Aruba. So I flew with the 5 guys that were involved in that project. There were 5 vice presidents. And then we flew, and it resulted to be an ambush. It resulted to be an ambush, and we never saw that coming. We were caught by the president of Venezuela
Oh,
as
wow.
political pawns, and we
Yeah.
became the hostage of the situation between the U.S. and Venezuela. Well, a lot of balloons. I don't know what that
No,
means.
don't know where that came from either.
I don't know what that means.
Not
but,
sure we
but,
should be celebrating being kidnapped.
well, but yeah, and we got kidnapped, and my friend, that negotiation lasted 5 years. We stayed 5 years, 5 long years in between the negotiation between the U.S. and
Mm,
Venezuela to get us released. And we finally came back after 5 years in October 2022 through a prisoner swap. That's what the way we
yeah.
got released. We were swapped by the two nephews of the president of Venezuela. So more balloons. I don't
What's
know
the
if they're
balloon story?
celebrating what I'm saying. I don't know what that means. But
That's a new thing I've not seen before. I'm so sorry.
yeah,
Um,
but that's why I decided to become what today I am, because after I came back, I didn't know what to do with my life.
mm,
And I began to get involved with what is called here in the US the hostage community, because this is a big issue here in the US. I didn't know. I was not aware about that. There are a lot of Americans hostage in other countries. So I began to meet people, families that have families in Russia, in China, in Afghanistan, in Syria, Myanmar, in Cuba. A lot of people.
mm,
And we when we get connected with that community and with other hostages that have been released, I begin to say, "Wow, this is something incredible." And connecting with the people, you begin to work with them and help them. And I said, "Oh, I like to do this," and that's
mm,
why I decided to become a coach. I said, "I can do this for a living." And I said, okay, Jose, you did your career in leadership position, and now you have a testimony of things that you went through, and now you can talk about this. You can
yeah.
talk about how you can overcome things in life. So that's why I decided to become a leadership and a resilient coach because I created my program based on the things that we did during those 5 years. So think that I begin to work on that, and not only work, I wrote my book. So I wrote my book that is based on that story from hero to villain. So
Yeah.
so has been a process that I never saw that coming, but you know I think it's God. To put you in that path, and it's like you're like doing His will. So that's what I'm doing today.
I mean, first of all, it's an amazing journey and good. So pleased that you got released. But 5 years is a long time to be in limbo, essentially.
Yeah.
And the kinds of mental resilience that you need to do that are extraordinary. Now, were you together with your VPs during that time, or were you separate? Did you know what was going on?
No, that was a journey. That is a very long story because our situation was never steady. Because
Right.
because we became the pawns of the relationship. At the beginning, the relationship were really tense. They were so tense that they both ambassadors were recalled. When
Right.
two countries recall their
Yeah.
ambassador, is because the things are going bad. So both ambassadors were recalled. The U.S. ambassador was recalled, and the Venezuelan ambassador was recalled. So there was no direct communication. So the first year, this guy, they separated the six. We were separated. I saw my colleagues 1 year after. So
Wow.
the first year I was alone. In a solitary confinement. I can tell you that was a terrible situation because we were starving and we had the lights turned on. Then we saw a lot of psychological and physical torture. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a terrible situation the first year. After 1 year, of course, because the relation began to, kind of evolve, they decided to put the five together, the other five guys with me. So the press, they did us, and they put us a name. They call us the Citgo Six because the company was Citgo and we were
Mm-hmm.
six. So we became the Citgo Six. That's the way you can Google and you will find we became like a brand. We always joke that someday we're going to have a rock band.
The Cisco 6
Yeah,
coming to a
yeah.
theatre
It's
near
going to be the
you.
Citgo Six. There's a photo that has been done all over the world with the six of us. We say that this is our Abbey Road.
Yeah, yeah. That is a way of making a cloud out of a silver lining for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So talking about resilience then, in that first year, how do you find the inner strength too? Because solitary confinement is its own kind of horrendous process, but also most humans aren't hermits. Like we are designed for interaction. We're designed to hang out with other people, even if it's in limited amounts. So what did you have to do to kind of stay sane in that first year?
Well, let me say something that will tie with the way we did this. 1 month before my situation, when I flew to Caracas to ask my boss to get retired, when I was coming back, I received a call that I needed to go to close a summit
Hmm.
that Silvio was doing. So I was the CEO, so I needed to go to the closing. So I was invited to go to the closing. I flew to the closing with my wife, and there was a speaker that was in the closing event, and the speaker was a guy that there is a movie done of his story, Captain Phillips, that was
Oh
played by
yeah,
Tom Hanks. Okay,
yeah,
well, the Captain Phillips, he was the speaker, the real Captain Phillips, the real one.
amazing.
So when he finished his speech was about his case. He was a hostage by the Somali pirate. And
Yeah.
when he finalized his speech, he sat down with me, and I told him, "Wow, man, you had quite of a journey." And but he told me that the human spirit had that inner force that comes from God. What you had to do is unleash it in any dark circumstance. So I didn't know why that guy told me that. That that message began to resonate to me, and it kept in my mind the day we were captured. When we were heading to the dungeon, I had that message in my mind,
Wow.
the inner force that comes from God. So I'm not going to say that it was in the day one, it was a process, but I really get stuck with that message in my mind. And that's what I did. I found that inner force. I found that connection because I understood that I needed to come back to my family.
Hmm.
And when I heard the voice of my wife, like 10 months after that I could talk with her, so I really, really began to think that I needed to come back and come back in one piece. So
Hmm.
I began to work on that. And when we were put together, it was incredible how all of us were thinking the same way because we were not friends. So these guys were not my friends. So I didn't know their story. I didn't know their family. I didn't know their life. First time we
Mm,
had the opportunity to talk. We were colleagues, but we're not friends. You're in a corporation that you see the people in meetings. You don't know what the story behind the people.
sure.
Well, it resulted that the six of us, all of us has more than 30 years married. All of us had wonderful families. All of us had wonderful wives. All of us had wonderful careers. So we had a lot of things in common.
Yeah.
And when we discovered that, we said, oh, there is something here weird. I think this is something coming from God because six guys randomly chosen that they didn't know themselves, and when they got together and begin to talk, we had the same pattern, the six of us. So now we say, okay, let's get together, and because we were oil and gas executive, more than 30 years each of us, we were guy, always having a strategic thinking. So we really begin to put a lot of brains and we create what we call the survivor plan. So we design a structured survivor plan and we stick to that plan during the following 4 years. On a daily basis, we were like a hamster in a cage, in a daily basis,
Gosh.
in a daily routine during 4 years. And it worked. And it worked.
I mean, firstly, that's a great testimony to the friendship and the faith that you built, but also it does remind people that behaviors change doesn't come from short moments of inspiration. It is a pattern that you have to
Yeah.
repeat and stick to. And for many people, that can seem quite boring. If you take, for example, something like getting fit, fitness comes from those patterns that you create. But
Yeah.
of course, in your situation, you had no option. Well, you did have an option. Your choice was either go down this pathway, stick to the routine and the plan that you created, or potentially suffer mental health challenges, physical challenges, whatever, because people don't all come out of isolation and imprisonment in a healthy state.
Let me
And
tell you,
and the
our
rest,
plan
yeah,
was so structured that we had a plan keeper. One of our guys, he was chosen as a plan keeper, and he
right,
was taking care that nobody deviated to the plan. He was like a stick to the plan. We didn't things like this. We didn't have running water. We had a tank, 500 liters tank that was filled up every week. So they
right,
did a calculation how much water a body can use during a day. So we had three gallons per person per day. So we're
right,
18 gallons per day times seven. So it was they did a calculation,
yeah,
and we had 3 gallons. Everybody had three bottles of 1 gallon each. Nobody could use more than that.
yeah,
The food, we distributed the food because we began to receive food, and we began to distribute the food to because the food came every 2 days, every 3 days. We needed to distribute the food to allow to get to the next 3 days. So we began to do the things in that way. We begin to read. We begin to write. I begin to write letters to my wife. That's why my book came, and we begin to pray. We begin to pray and read the Bible. We begin to do exercise. One of my guys, he was a marathon runner, so he created a plan where we did yoga, we did meditation, we did push up, we did static running. He did like a 2 or 3 hours program, and everybody was doing it at the same time. So we had like hours to do every routine. So from this hour to this hour, this routine from this hour, and we stayed doing that during the whole day since 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. So when we
gosh,
was 11 p.m., we were tired doing things. We didn't have time to be having negative thoughts.
yeah,
Always were doing things, doing things, doing things, doing things, doing things. And the time began to pass really fast.
amazing. Did you at any point in that process, I mean, I'm sure you did, but were there days when one or all of you were like, I just don't want to do the routine today? Like, I want to lie in my bunk, I want to ignore the world and pretend that I'm not here. Did that ever happen?
Yes, yes, of course it happened. I'm not gonna say it didn't happen, but we had the strong commitment that if we saw that one of us was down, the other five immediately came to lift him. So we never left nobody down. We respected one of my colleagues. I remember that he was having a terrible situation with one of his kids, and
Right.
everybody knew about that. Nobody talked about that, but everybody knew what was going on with him, and he began to have a lot of pain.
Hmm.
So we saw moments of pain with him, and we respected that. So we respected the timing, but we never let people get down. I remember one of my colleagues. I was always having argument with him because he was kind of some crazy guy, and he always came to me to say, "Hey, my friend, sorry, sorry." One day I told him, people have to love you. People have to love you. And when we came back, the day we were discharged, because we came back and we stayed like 10 days in a military base here in
Hmm.
San Antonio, Texas, in a decompression program. Okay. So
Yeah.
after 10 days, when we were discharged, I remember he came to me and said, "Hey, Jose, I will need a poster of your photo in my room because I'm gonna miss you."
Yeah.
It was really funny. And we have seen us after that several times, and now we joke about things
Yeah.
that we went through. We we compared those things in jokes. We begin to joke. We make jokes. One day we met and we were remember a situation we went through, and we were
Hmm.
laughing, and we said, "Oh, people will think we're crazy." Because now for us it became silly situation, really silly
Yeah.
situation. So now we make jokes about that.
I think that's a healthy response. I served in the British Army, and after Afghanistan, after you've processed the jokes start to happen. We lost people. There were some hard times for various people. If you can find humor in the darkest of times, there's always hope. And I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah,
beautiful that you've done that.
yeah, yeah.
With the decompression, I'm interested in because again, coming back from war zones, the British Army and I'm sure the American do put people through decompression as well because you got to return from that bubble to reality. And I suppose it's exactly the same thing for you. Was there a point during decompression where you felt almost afraid to go back to the real world?
That for us, the compression was great because this is the program that they do for the prisoner of war and the missing in.
Right.
So it's a very structured program. And the way they do it is that they use psychologists, therapists, expert in the area, and they try to do the decompression in a way that because even if you don't know, you had a lot of pressure inside because you have been during a stressful situation for years.
Absolutely.
So the way they do is they begin to when they open a bottle very smoothly, and then it begin to. So that's what they do to you. So when you come out after the 10 days, you're more prepared to go to the world. But
Hmm.
I can tell you, even though I felt like I was coming in a time machine. I always say that. The feeling was like you were coming in a time machine. Because when I came back to my house, I saw my sons, my grandsons. Now they are tall, grown up. People have changed. My family had moved. So I came to a new house. I didn't recognize nothing. So I was like, do you remember the movie that Tom Hanks, the Castaway?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
scene when well, was something like that. The feeling was
Wow.
like that. The people was celebrating, and I was like, "Wow, I'm back." I was kind of weird. It was a weird situation.
I guess it's hard to know how to feel after so long of trying to stay, in the focus, but also there aren't many everyday situations, there aren't any everyday situations that compare to what you go through. So I imagine that when you come back out, it's just a case of this is a bit surreal. Like, was it all a dream? Did I slip in a coma for 5 years? How has all these changes happen? And of course, for you, time in some ways stood still because you had that same routine every single day. But outside, the world kept moving.
Yeah. Not only moving, when I came back, it was after the pandemic. So
Oh, yeah.
people after pandemic have become very sensitive. And for example, simple thing because I came back without no paper because they stole my wallet, they stole my passport, they stole my driver's license, everything. I came back without no paper. I remember when we were landing here in the U.S., I had the ambassador, Carsten, who rescued us with me, and I said, Ambassador, I'm going to go to do immigration. I don't have no paper. I said, you're with the U.S. government. Okay, but I needed to take my papers. So I
Yeah.
asked one of the people that work there is an office called the Special Presidential Envoy for Hostage Affairs. It's an office that's
Okay.
dedicated to take care of hostages. So we have an officer with us. I remember telling the officer, how can I get my driver's license? So he said, no, don't worry. We're going to take care of you. So like 2 or 3 days after, I received a call already here in Houston. Hey, Jose, you're going to go to this address and they're going to take care of you. And they sent me a letter signed by the State Department where I was officially declared as a hostage and wrongfully detained to all the authorities to take care, blah,
Hmm.
blah, blah. So I had my paper. I go to take my driver license. I go to the clerk. And when I gave the letter to her, she saw me like I was a Martian. Who is this guy? Then she began to see me and see the letter. And then she said, wait a moment. And she went to go to the supervisor. And I called her. Hey, there's something wrong. I was like kind of upset. You know
Sure.
what that lady told her supervisor? That I was harassing. Then the supervisor came and she began to kind of yell at me that I was harassing. And I said, I was not harassing. I was asking if was something wrong. And I was like, what happened in the world? So, because the people now are more sensitive. I didn't recognize that. To
Wow.
tell you the truth, for me, it was a shock at the beginning.
Yeah.
and how the people have changed, how the people are more sensitive to things that probably there was no so issue. Now there are things that there are things that today are politically incorrect to talk in public, you know. So I
Hmm.
have been learning.
But actually, when you think about it, you kind of were removed from apocalyptic events by being kept hostage all that time, because the pandemic is, the way we all responded to it is something very different from at any point in history because of the global reach, because of our connectivity. So not only have you been sat there not knowing what's going on in the world, and people have changed, things have changed, but actually
But I
we
got
had
COVID.
such events.
I got COVID. Even I was isolated.
Oh,
I got COVID
really?
too. Yeah, I got COVID two
Wow.
times. I got not only one, two times. It repeated.
And how was it treated where you were being kept?
They disappeared me for second time. They took me in a secret hospital that they had because they didn't want the world knew that I
To
had
know
COVID.
that,
So I was
wow.
disappeared during 10 days. They put me in a treatment, you know, and because
Yeah.
I begin to have symptoms that having problem of breathing, and when I remember when they did the oxygen, I had it below 90. So I began to
Oh,
have
that's serious. Yeah.
it began to be serious. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was telling one of the officers, hey, I need to call my family. I felt they didn't want me to talk with nobody.
Oh,
So
wow.
my son, he was in charge of all my logistics. He was already having conversation with journalists, the people that were aware in the press. So he called one of the journalists and said, hey, my dad is disappeared. If you Google it, it appeared in AP, Associated Press, and it began to go all over the world that I was disappeared. That's the way this guy returned me to my cell because I was disappeared. So yeah, so we went through a lot of situations. It's difficult to say. You have to read my book
I'm going
where
to
I
read your
tell all
book.
the
It's on my
stories.
list.
In my book, I narrate all those events that we went through.
Everyone should read the book, for the record. One more question for you. So obviously you were a political prisoner, but this wasn't a politics that had anything to do with you. You know, the inter-country relationship has nothing to do
Yeah.
with you as a everyday person. What emotions did you go through when you realized that you were being used as a pawn for state actors? What had, and particularly when you were born in Venezuela as well. So how did that feel?
Well, that's a very great question because I learned that we were caught in the political thing like 1 month after. And
Right.
the way that happened, we didn't know what was going on. We could not understand. We thought there was a mistake. As I said, in that solitary confinement, and like 1 month after, I received a note from somebody, and they gave to one of the guard, and the guard gave me the note. So when he gave me the note, I don't know what relation he had with this guy because I have never talked with him. But I received a note, and this guy was a very high-ranked officer in Venezuela, and
Right.
his handwriting was telling me what was going on. When I knew what was going on, is that we understood that we were get caught in the middle of that situation between the U.S. and Venezuela, and we said, "Wow!" And then when we were going to the trial, we know that we were being charged to be spies and committed treason. So I begin to say, I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna stay here forever because Venezuela today is a communist regime. Can you imagine
Mm.
being charged of being American spy in a communist regime?
I mean, it's not doesn't make you feel good inside, does
No,
it?
of course not. So months after, I was really really aware what was going on, and I said, I don't know how I'm gonna go out. So to tell you the truth, today I still say that we came back to a miracle. It was a
Mm.
miracle.
Well, I'm glad the miracle happened, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, so obviously you're a leadership and resilience coach, and as everyone has heard, you have so much experience in these areas. So what sort of clients do you work with at the moment?
I work with entrepreneurs, I work with CEOs, I work with business owners, and I basically work with them one on one. And I try to, as I always say, unleash their unbreakable spirit, because people sometimes have they are hostages of their situation, their belief. Even they're not a physical hostage.
Hmm.
Sometimes they're hostages of they don't feel they are a good leader. They're having communication problems. They're having empathy problem with the people. And I try to teach them that how they can become empathic, how they can connect with the people, being human being, because this is something that I always was a people guy. In my
Hmm.
previous life, I always was a people guy, but I boosted that during my hostage situation, because there was no other way to survive
Sure.
if you don't connect with the people. And we were not alone, because we were that at some point we were the six together, but we were with all the political prisoners of Venezuela. We're like 400 people there.
Wow.
So I was with militaries, politicians, journalists, human rights. A lot of high-ranked officers that I used to see in the TV. They were
Hmm.
my cellmates now, and you connect with the people, and they're normal human beings.
Right.
So when you know them, you know the people because they're having the same ordeal. So there's no suit, no nothing. It's you being yourself. So that's the way you connect with the people, and that this is something that today is part of the thing that I teach, how you can connect with the people, you, being yourself.
I think that's such an important lesson because, as you say, we tend to put on a mask or we lose sort of confidence in our abilities. And I think I always like to look at children because children are often fearless. They have none of these reservations that we
They
acquire
say
as we get an adult.
what they think. Yes.
Absolutely. And of course, as you get older, we learn these sort of behaviors but it can stifle your creativity,
Because
can
when
stifle,
you're in a
yeah,
leadership position, sometimes you, as you said, you put your mask, you create that separation. You don't want to show your vulnerability, because people will think that you are weak. This type of
sure, yeah.
belief that people have, and it's really interesting that, for example, today people talk about being a servant leader
Hmm.
and a purpose driver leader. There are fancy words, but this is something that always has been there, because
Yeah.
that comes from the beginning of the Christianity. Jesus, all the Paul, whoever, Moses, they did that. They were servant leaders, they were purpose driven leaders. So today, now you have to study that. But this is something that really comes from you. What you have to do is really unleash that is inside you. Everybody has that force inside. Everybody has that spirit inside.
So you believe that leaders are born, but they need to perhaps be created as well, or reminded of
Yeah, yeah.
their
I
power.
believe that you are born. Maybe you don't know it. You have to be, maybe you need some kind of training, but you have that inside. Everybody
Mm,
has that inside. In more or less, but everybody has inside. What you have to do is unleash it.
I love that, and I think again it goes back to as children we are all born the same,
Yeah,
with the same.
yeah,
In fact, there's only two fears that you're born with. One is a fear of falling, and the other one is a fear of loud noises. And I'm not even convinced that you're born with a fear of falling because I've seen some toddlers who just will walk off anything without thinking
yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Um, but all the rest we acquire as we get older, and that stops us from being whoever it was that we were born to be. So I love that the fact you're looking to unleash that again into the world and help these leaders to step into themselves again, but in that leadership position.
yeah, yeah.
With your resilience work, and how does that cross into leadership? How do you intersect the two?
Because the resilience is inconceivable. A leader without resilience, a true leader has to be a resilient leader, because the only way you can be a good leader is being adapted to the situation, no matter what is going on in your life or in your business. If you, for some reason you fail, you have setback, you have to bounce back and continue, bounce back and continue. So that's what a true leader do. And there are very good examples in life. People have been failing, but they keep going, and boom, okay, I made it. So that's what a leader do. And when you have that passion, that way to behave, you will inspire your people. The
Hmm.
people will follow you, because now
Yeah.
people will understand that you have a clear vision of where you want to go. No matter what, you're gonna be there. So that's what the leaders do. When you have that passion, and then no matter what, you fail, but you continue. So that's part of the resilience in a leader.
I love that. Has anything, apart from your job, have you changed anything else about the way you live since you returned to the rest of the world?
Well, I'm a total different person today, definitely. First of all, I was a guy totally disconnected with God. I
Hmm.
was a guy totally disconnected with my family. I was a workaholic, always working and didn't take care of my family. Today, I understand that priorities is God and my family. So not now, today, I'm very connected to my church. I do church service. I am connected to my wife. So I reconnected to things that I really had lost.
Hmm.
And today I express gratitude for everything. This morning, I remember I was invited to a LinkedIn event, and there's a good friend that I had great friendship. People that now are my friend, that people that I didn't know that these people were outside there, because this is something that when I was in the oil and gas, I was so in a cluster that I
Hmm.
didn't know that there was a world outside there. And now
Yeah,
I know there are good people out there doing great things out there, and by law of attraction, you begin to attract to these people, and now you're connected to these people. So
absolutely.
I was with this friend this morning, and it was very early. It was like 6:30 a.m. And he asked me, "How do I do if I am having a bad day to wake up?" And
Hmm.
I was telling him that even if I had a bad day, when I awake, I express gratitude. I express gratitude, and I put my mind to be in a positive mindset. I will never let the beginning of my day be determined by what happened the prior day. Because even any circumstance that you're going in your life, you don't have to make that determine what's going to be with you. You are bigger than that. So that's part of the thing that today I really believe. I'm a total different person today.
And again, it shows the strength of character and resilience that you've had to take who you were and become who you are now. And that's a wonderful thing to see. If you had to give someone sort of five, say five lessons to live by, but what are the main lessons that you have learned? And I think you've already talked about reconnecting with friends and family and being less of a workaholic.
The first thing is that anything in life you can overcome it. Even if you're going to any situation in your life, any people that can be hearing this, you can
Hmm.
be going to any situation in your life, because sometimes it's yourself or somebody that you love. But first, you have to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
You have to take care of the people that love you. You have to reconnect with the people that love you, because sometimes when you're going to any situation in life, people try to navigate things alone. They don't want to involve others, and you have people that love you. Make that reconnection with whatever you believe. In my case, I'm a God believer. You can believe in another whatever you believe. You have to believe. Having always a positive mindset and being focused. And being focused in what's going on. So I believe that will be my five lessons. You need to be focused. You have to have a positive mindset. You have to reconnect with the loved one. You have to reconnect with your spirituality, and you have to take care of yourself. That are my five recommendations. By the way, this is part of my program.
I think they're brilliant, brilliant recommendations. And again, um, it's great to be able to share the lessons that you've learned with a wider audience, and so important because when you're in that situation, all you had is yourself and the five VPs around you. It strips everything back to basics, and sometimes we do get caught up with things that just don't matter, or we forget that pain is temporary. You can always find a way through, but you just
Yeah,
have to stay the course. So keep
you
that
can find
focus.
you can find purpose in the pain. You
I
can
love
find
that.
the purpose in the pain, and
You
and
can.
and and, and I will always say that when you begin to see that your life in perspective, you see that you can understand why you went through some situation in life.
Hmm.
Sometimes, because everybody has a purpose. and you have your own purpose. And again, in my case, I believe that it is a master plan that God has for you. But to go from point A to point B, maybe you have to go to a lot of situations. And
Hmm.
that's part of the life. That's what life is. And today I
Yeah,
understand that.
life is not linear, unfortunately. It's
Never is
it's full
linear.
of
Never will be
ups and
linear.
downs.
Never will be linear.
And what would you say to people who go, well, I've not had any big trauma, I'm not rich, but I'm not poor, but I just don't feel like my life is where I want it to be. Because people often look at, influencers or people like yourself. They've had, you've had significant experiences, but of course, you don't have to go to the deepest extreme to make a change. So, what would you say to those kind of people?
Because I believe that again, this is something that is by choice. But you have to have that disposition,
Hmm.
the willingness to change. That everything begins having the willingness that you one day say, "I'm going to change." So
Yeah,
if you have that disposition to do it, you will do it. But it's your personal choice. We are here as a coach. I can help you. I can give you techniques. I can train you, but everything is related to you. If you don't have that willingness to do the thing, you will not do it. But you can do it. Everybody can do it.
absolutely.
Everybody. No, nobody is different. We are equal in that. Everybody has that force inside, but it's your choice if you decided to unleash it or not.
So true. And I say to my therapy clients, the only thing you can control is you. Like, you can't control what someone else thinks about you. You can't control how they behave. You can control you. And as you say, it starts with you. Everything starts with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love that. Jose, how do people find you if they want to work with you or read your book?
Well, I have my webpage. Very easy. It's joseconnect.com. In joseconnect, connect with the double N. joseconnect.com. I have there my coaching program. I have there my speaking because I'm doing public speaking too. And I have the link to my book. My book is in Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all. But if you go to the webpage, you will find everything there.
Yeah.
There, I have my YouTube channel where I do tutorials. I have my LinkedIn where I do a weekly newsletter. Today I do a live podcast every Monday where I talk about leadership and resilience. So I try to share as much value as possible to the people. Anybody can contact me. I have there my calendar. You can book a call. We can have a chat. So very easy, very easy. Jose Connect.
JoseConnect.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Jose, thank you so much for sharing your story, for coming out the other side and spreading all the positivity as well. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Wonderful interview.
Thank you.